Do you need the Wi-Fi info?
What?
Do you need the Wi-Fi info to connect on your laptop?
I don't know.
Yeah, let's sign on to the meeting together.
Yeah,
So,
so, I just tried it outside and it said I couldn't get the internet.
all right, let's figure it out.
That's what I was hoping you'd say.
Let's figure it out. So I think the best thing, can I go on your draft? Oh, where is the Wi-Fi? It's called. I'm not a PC person. There's a lot going on. Where do I find the internet? Do you know?
No.
Okay.
I mean, at home,
Yeah, yeah. I'm just used to Macs, not PCs, so I
Right.
don't know where it shows up. We'll get it. No problem. Not that great.
oh yeah, well, this is
Yeah.
better than
Better than it was.
better than I got outside.
Nice.
And look,
How do we connect to the internet?
well, usually, the internet is right up here.
Yeah, it's just we have to connect to the internet from here. And I know
Yeah.
how to do it on my computer, but I'm not sure how to do it.
Yeah,
Adnan, who's outside, he'll
Yeah.
definitely know.
yeah.
He can make recommend that's a very oh, no internet. Okay. How do I reconnect the Wi-Fi? Where is Wi-Fi? I'm gonna search for it. Ah, here we go. Hello, Adnan. Yeah, thank you. I love your computer. Pretty. Speaking of computers, could you possibly help us? I am not good with PCs at all, and we're just trying to get onto the Wi-Fi so he can access the closed captioning. No.
Oh, which one? Oh, go Benin. Sure. Sure. You know what? This is not. Hmm. Let's see. Turn it off. Oh, there we go. Council changes.
Is that for security?
I'm just not sure if it's that one or that one.
Yeah.
All right. All right, what do we do now? I think we're connected.
You figure it out.
One of the town, the search for Portola Valley Town calendar.
Okay.
You click on the agenda.
And, gosh, this mouse is very finicky.
It's not all PCs are like that.
No.
It's not just the PC.
Use PCs once in a while. This is very, very, very particular.
Right.
And it doesn't allow me to go up and down. So that's always fun. Oh my goodness. Might have to like go and get a mouse from my house to make this work. It's connected.
Would it have been better had I lost my mouse?
Maybe, yeah.
Yes, wireless mouse.
Yes, that would have been better, definitely.
Next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I guess there's also this laptop that Amy could be on, just for the future.
Oh, yeah.
For the future, there's also this laptop. You just use this one.
Not bring mine.
I think so. Yeah.
Good.
All right, so speak now. Okay, you will see the captions right there.
Yeah, if I plug this in,
haven't turned on the sound though, because there's gonna be
Then there'll
feedback.
be,
Yeah.
even with.
Even with that,
batteries,
there's gonna
yeah.
be feedback.
Yeah.
Andy, what happens if there's two computers or like in the same space with the same sound, it makes all this crazy sound.
Feedback.
Feedback, right?
Thank you, Adnan.
You are very welcome.
Kind of warm.
It was cold this morning.
Yeah, when I walked outside tonight, it was just like white fog. and just-
I think I'll be able to do that. Actually, I think I'll be able to.
Oh, wow, cool.
But I'll leave until August, you know?
This meeting is the 8th. I will be out of town and per law now, so I won't for quorum or probably be able to officially chair. That's Tim. who can chair for some-
Okay. Now, did, Don Silver tell you that he's gonna join the?
to do it. Did he tell you?
He just told, I just saw him.
Oh, okay. You just saw that here and he told you that? Okay.
Wow. For John.
Sounds
He's
about
something.
right.
I've known him for years. It's always been true. I
And
think
Andy.
he'll,
With what?
yeah, being late.
Oh.
And-
Hello.
And bringing his dog in. Anyway, he's a friend of mine, but he's got
Yeah.
peculiarities that I disagree with.
Yeah, you all know that this meeting is being recorded, right?
Yes. We're discussing.
I'm just saying that as
Yes.
we're talking through this,
Yes.
it's a recorded meeting. Hi.
All of personal events. The whole
Are we,
world.
is there gossip going on?
You know, the gossip came from the SIP.
I didn't know that.
It's like SIP tea
Go
and
Sip.
SIP and
And
whatever
Tea
and
or-
chat or whatever. In your
Right,
tea.
right.
Go sip some tea. Gossip. Tongue a little loose.
Right. Not tea,
Or tea.
Coffee?
Depends on what you put in the
but it
tea.
depends on what.
What kind of tea it is.
No, just the
How
experience.
did you get up there?
That one.
Speaking of tea.
I'm not having
I'm
tea,
gonna
but
be-
I know, I didn't have time. I came here at 5:30 at like, I was like, oh no.
I think if we
6:30
tried to
and then
do
I
that,
looked
it
up
would-
the.
It would, you wouldn't
I
want to
did
be
it
able to
in-house
see that.
instructor too.
Okay, yeah.
So let's just keep.
Probably
it.
better.
We met at 5:30, I don't know, sometime recently.
Oh, last special meeting.
One of them.
Oh, Kim, you've
Yeah.
had terrible luck with coming down here at times when we're not actually
Oh.
meeting. This, I mean, it's like,
It's not like it's that far.
I'm sorry. It's a little
It's
far.
okay.
farther than I feel.
It's a
Well,
good- It's probably a good 15 minutes, not 20, no? 10?
how long does it take you to
The
get?
thing is,
to-
though, I was thinking it was at 6:30. And I went in the house, I was like, I should chat. And I was like, I gotta go, because I was planning on making dinner.
Yeah.
I
Aw.
was like, oh, no, I'll make dinner afterwards. So I come back, I'm like, well, now I'm making dinner now, and I gotta.
Oh, no, you went home and then came
Oh,
back?
yeah, and made dinner.
Oh, wow. So Judy Murphy is out of town. Donnie was gonna join us virtually, but, I don't see him, and also, like, other requirements for, somebody to be able to join virtually, there was like pushback from the staff this week, and it didn't seem like it would work for him to count for quorum, and
Right, you need like a.
well, and it needs to be like accessible to
Do
the
we need
public.
5 for 10?
We are 8 right now, so we need 5 for 10. Andy said he was gonna be.
Okay.
John said he's gonna join by
By
Zoom and maybe only till 7 p.m. let's get John in here so we could have forum to get started.
Yeah, I parked right next to his car.
If he comes in here, you have phone, but you leave, do you still have phone?
More forums than otherwise. Like maybe Andrew will show up and I'll text Andrew.
Oh, Dan,
I am, yeah.
yeah, my family do that till about 1922, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
I still got her, just
Oh, really?
she's in a wheelchair, but she doesn't look like she's in a wheelchair. Anyway, they use it for, I use it,
Did you grow up with a family?
What?
Did you grow up with a family, the Duvenack family?
yeah, I
Did
don't-
you grow up with a Duvenack family?
No, no. But, and,
Oh, great.
see what I told us that. What? You think?
From
For 2 years.
That's what I was thinking.
Really? Oh, wow. Quite a legacy there. It's quite a legacy there.
How long you remember?
You're there, how was that?
You're working.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your whole family?
They were very active.
Yeah, for this particular one of the-
Okay, right.
Yeah.
one for 25.
And what were you training them on?
How do you, I don't think- is it that exercise?
Related to Google products or just different?
What is it?
Oh, okay, nice. That's great.
How can you spend less time on work, so you can spend more time?
That's so important. Consulting myself in that way today, you know. Well, yeah, screens are just such an intentionality. I look at one a lot for work and then I look at not work and I was tired today and I was just too much screen. But yeah, it's a lot. It's like it's stimulating if you're already living. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you probably know exactly the kind of
Yeah.
things I was wondering about this morning. Monitoring on, like, it's stimulating, but just in one way, instead of being like different kinds of.
When you listen to audio, your brain, when you're presented with everything in front of you, your brain does a lot.
Mhm.
So when you listen to audio and you're doing more.
Like if you're
There's a lot
listening to a
more-
story or
you're-
radio.
Yeah, you've got a lot more stimulation. When you're reading a book, then you're translating the words into like audio and then to so it's even more. You know, you looking creative. You can use this situation. If you're
Yeah,
using it for
But if you're
consumption,
just,
then it's very like so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, this has its use too.
that's an interesting way to.
That's just a
I'm glad
different
you
level.
described it that way. Because I was thinking,
Very
not to
important for
mention my own
brain
brain.
development.
Yeah.
Really.
Hey, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Mary.
Andrew.
We're just getting quorum here with Andrew. So don't worry, you haven't missed anything.
You're the core, you're the core. Yes.
You're the quorumator. Quorum maker.
Great. Well, call this July 2022 meeting of the Portola Valley Race and Equity Committee to order. I'm Lucy, I'm here. Not
Here.
Andy Brown,
Here.
Dan Marinucci, here. And Andy Pierce.
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a step. Since we don't have a fixed secretary, somebody needs to be secretary. Thank you so much. In the future, I will try and ask ahead of time, so you're not like rolling into being secretary cold, but I realized on the way here that
The Wi-Fi. Oh, here it is. And is it community hall or council chamber? Okay.
got none. Okay, so we've got a roll call, and the record also reflect that our council liaison, Mary Hussey, is also present. Hi, and John Silver is here. Hi, John. So John will not count the quorum because he's virtually, and John, you're on mute in case you want to not be. Hi, John. You're on mute in case you want to not be. Okay, so John's with us right now virtually. Jonathan Clark was going to join us virtually, not for quorum, and Judith Murphy is out of town.
Hello, I just figured out I was pushing the wrong unmute button.
Okay, thank you. May I have a volunteer, please, to read our town's land acknowledgement? Okay, Mary, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any oral communications for items not on the agenda? Okie dokie. Members of the public? No. Then we'll move on to approval of minutes from June 15th meeting. Judy Murphy was our secretary. I will give another moment for folks to look it over, and please say if you have any changes to request. Uh-huh. Yeah, if you could make a note of it. Anybody else? If there are no suggestions for changes, if someone could move to approve the minutes from our June meeting.
So move to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Andy, you approve? Aye?
Yes.
Aye. Ayes all around. Great. Moving on to agenda item number 4, new business. Adnan, you're busy as secretary, but if you also, the item is hear about and discuss possibilities for using AI in town processes. And this was something that Adnan had mentioned in the oral communications last week, but it stayed in oral communications, so we didn't discuss it. So yeah, just thought we would hear if Adnan would be willing to share now a little bit more about those possibilities, where you're coming from, I guess, in your understanding of all that, and then we could discuss to the extent that we want.
Yes, of course. So what I'm proposing is we potentially try out, and I'm not sure what the process would be to try this out, but there is a program called Otter.ai, OTTER.ai, and what it does is that it allows for a AI bot to come into the Zoom room and take notes for you. So it will have the whole transcript, which we also can get from Zoom too, by the way. We can get the entire transcript from Zoom too.
Is that like the closed caption, but in the transcript?
Exactly. So you can get that. So what it does is it takes that and it creates notes for you, getting the pertinent details for each different thing. And it kind of like takes all of that information and presents it in a really nice way, along with follow-ups. It'll give you like follow-ups of what you need to do. If there's any action items that you need to take, it'll like put those in there too. So it kind of helps to kind of create all of those different things. So I don't know if there's a proposal that needs to be made to the town council to kind of try it out. The free version only gives you 30 minutes of time, but we could try it out potentially and do a pilot at our next meeting for the first half an hour, see how it goes, and then report back. I don't know if that's something we can do on our own or if we need approval to do that.
Your mic on?
Yeah, you're the town council representative, right? So. Yeah.
Can't hear you, Mary.
I can repeat. Mary's saying that,
wanna say
oh,
that?
do you want to, yeah, do you want to just,
These mics are.
no.
Mary, you could also sit at the end of the dais here. There's
I can be at the end. The sum total of my thought was that anything that makes your doing the minutes easier seems to me okay. And being a pilot for that seems totally appropriate.
Certain, however they come out, they have to be approved by us.
Yeah.
So, if you have it,
However, I will report that you're going to try it at your next meeting, and that'll go on the town council agenda.
Great,
They'll see that.
awesome. Yeah, and then we'll report back and see how it goes.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Is this particular AI system intended for meetings of public bodies, or is it just anyone?
I'll double check and see if there are public bodies that have used it. But I mean, privacy and all of that is, is very important for these folks because they are in education as well. So the Otter has a specific product for education. And I know they have to comply by FERPA and COPA laws, which is the Family Education Rights Privacy Act and the Children Online Privacy Act as well. So they have to comply by those. And based on that information, I'm pretty sure that it would comply with federal regulation because those are more stringent laws to protect children than they are to protect government bodies. So,
Well, I would think the Brown Act would be the opposite, where you have to report everything and you can't censor anything.
well, it's not, we're going to be reporting everything, making it public, but so it shouldn't matter to us then, right?
I'm just thinking format wise. I mean, we have a certain format that
Uh-huh.
we use.
Yep.
It's gonna spill out stuff that we have to put in our format anyway. It's probably, so if it's, looks like our format, then it would be good.
That's why we'll pilot it out and see how it goes. Okay.
any other questions or discussion from committee members?
Yes. By the way, I was looking for an option to raise my hand so I could be polite, but couldn't
Hmm.
find it. So I hope it's okay for me simply to speak up.
Yes.
just a little thought about minutes and also about AI. Some very brief history. In the olden days, when I was first in town government in Portola Valley, committees would do action minutes. That way it could be simple and brief. And we didn't have staff, so that was, except for the volunteers on the committee, that seemed to do the job. And then, but on the town council, we had much more detailed minutes. They weren't a verbatim transcript, but they were pretty detailed. And the quality was sometimes iffy, but at one point we hired this wonderful woman whose name I'm not remembering. We'd tape the meetings, send the tapes to her. She would, her encapsulation, a briefer version, but an accurate version of what was said was just dead on. People like her don't exist anymore because of AI. They just are outcompeted. But AI will make interesting mistakes sometimes. And so I think it's fine to have minutes that are done by AI, but it should be noted that the minutes may contain inaccuracies. Otherwise, all of us have to read a transcript of everything that was said and cross every I and dot every T. That's just impractical. And I should also say, when I was in the County Planning Commission, the minutes that were released were action minutes with a bit of fleshing out as to what the thinking was involved. But there were tapes kept of every meeting. And if anything went on appeal to the Board of Supervisors or was caught up in a court challenge, a transcript, well, the tape became the minutes. And members of the Board of Supervisors would, quote unquote, rehabilitate themselves by listening to the full minutes, or excuse me, the full tape. And if it went to court challenge.
John, could you maybe take?
I'll
like
wrap it up.
Seconds.
In any case, I think it's great to try this with AI, but I think there needs to be some kind of disclaimer that, because AI it may be getting close to perfect, but until we know it is, I think for legal reasons.
And John, I am perfect. I make no mistakes.
Good.
I'm perfect. I make no mistakes. So I should be the note taker for every single meeting that happens on the face. No,
I make a lot of mistakes.
I make
so I should.
so I mean, just as an example, I was just saying while reviewing the minutes that were made last week, Stanford was incorrectly set out, right? Like, I mean, I just made that comment earlier today. So those are I think that in all of these things, we have to be cautious and think about like who makes mistakes and what are, I don't think that our process should change in any way, shape, or form in terms of reviewing the minutes and how they're done and what content is on them. I think we need to continue having as fine of an eye as we do right now. I just think that it's going to make life slightly easier. But again, I'll let you know because it's hard for me to talk right now and type what I'm saying.
Totally,
because I
yeah.
have to take the minutes for what I'm doing. But
Flight of the secretary,
but basically my thing is humans make mistakes too.
Cool.
Well, I agree. And I think it's a great thing to try, but I just think, and this would be more if the town council or one of the commissions were adopted, the actual legal record then needs to become the Zoom tape.
yes, that makes sense. And I think that's part of why Adnan suggested there is a transcription as well. Well, I think this is really interesting. I mean, I think we're just starting with the idea of having it at one of our meetings for a half an hour, and then there can be more substantive discussion after that. I have one question. Do any other, still, I have one question. Do any other committee members have questions or discussion? Kim, anything? Oh, I don't know. I was hoping you could speak to how you see this relating to race and equity.
So I feel like humans, as we are typing and writing, right? Like, and I'm thinking about this in myself as well. I have a bias, right? I couldn't write while I was speaking because our brains technically cannot multitask. What we do is something called single tasking. We switch between tasks really quickly. So it looks like we're multitasking. But for me, specifically, I cannot type and write at the same time or talk and type at the same time. So knowing that about me and myself, and knowing that I have my own biases, right? Coming into this, right? I already have a bias against thinking that, AI actually, I feel like it makes fewer mistakes than I do on my, speaking for myself and using the I here. But so I think that it will also potentially provide a less biased perspective, just because technically AI doesn't have opinions.
Mhm. Yeah, interesting.
yeah.
That's very interesting. And then also freeing up the secretary is
Yeah.
kind of in a micro way, an issue of equity. It's nice for everyone to be able to participate in the meeting equally.
The other equity component might be that there'd be a standardized minute level.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah.
I mean, that's the point about, well, are you doing this for commissions? Are you doing that for,
Mhm,
but this is going to provide a standardized
Yeah.
degree of detail.
Cool. Well, interesting to explore. Do members of this committee feel okay if we invite Otter, the AI minute taking bot, into our next meeting for a half hour?
I think so.
Experiment. Yeah. Not with any commitment that will,
It doesn't
you know, just an
obligate us to
experiment.
stick with it forever.
no obligation.
Yes.
Okay.
And the one thing I want to say as well is that so this is something else that's gonna have to come out in terms of processes in the future. I'm just thinking about this. I'm gonna create this through my personal account and invite my personal Otter AI to come and do this. But in the future, probably we'll need to do that through the, to the main Zoom account as well. So just in terms of process. So
That'll be a process.
that'll be a process,
Mhm.
yes.
Nothing moves.
Cool. Well, let's make the most of the, 30-minute trial. Think about how to make the most of that in terms of sharing information with the town, since it seems limited, and then we'll go from there. Cool. Thank you, Adnan, for sharing. Very interesting. Members of the public, I don't think I need to say that right now. Okay, on to agenda item number 5, old business. Item A is subcommittee reports. So just wanted to open this up for subcommittee reports, and this can be things you've been working on or things that are just of interest, things that are in someone's awareness that they might want to work on and are wondering if anybody else wants to work on it. Just anything related to realms of subcommittees. So housing subcommittee, any report update?
Yeah, just quick. I got things from finance and from open space, as well as our own notes, and I compiled the overarching ideas that again come from me with my bias
For the Inclusionary Housing Fund.
for the Inclusionary Housing Fund, exactly. And so I created that and sent it out to the folks that were on the committee of committees for the Inclusionary Housing Fund. There was so I've sent that out for folks to peruse and look
Did you
through.
actually synthesize it or just copy and paste?
Oh no, I synthesized.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
interesting.
I
Okay,
synthesized a
yeah.
lot of the different things. So
Got
I
it.
copied and I put all the different reports in there, so you can see all 3 reports in the
Uh-huh.
same document.
Then
And
you
then
Summarize.
I
Yeah.
summarized each document, and I summarized the things that I thought were the same. I summarized what I thought were differences, and I summarized what I thought were general recommendations from each one of the meetings. So yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Adnan.
Did you start with the thing we agreed on last year, or is that?
Yeah, exactly. So there's that, and then there's 2 other things that have come from finance and from open house.
Oh,
So those are all there. And if you're interested,
2
I
other
mean, I'm
committees.
assuming it's okay to share this out with other folks. If
I would ask
Yeah.
Give us
Mary.
a shot at it. How about giving, when's
Well, Andrew was on the Inclusionary Housing Committee, or the Housing Committee is on the Housing Committee. And so if I can share that with him, just because, he'll be able to, yeah, so I'll share that with you.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's sharing out like the work of the other 2 committees before there was any sort of process to make that public. So I would maybe wait on that
Oh, maybe
until
wait, okay.
that larger
that's
group
larger
is
group
like,
says it's
yeah.
okay. All right.
just to be
Sure.
conservative
Okay.
or
All right.
careful.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you. Anything else on the housing front?
On to that point, I believe that conservation wants to get a shot at it somehow. They want to have a couple of lines that they want you to synthesize into this. Is it too late for that?
They can send it over
Or
and
we
I'll,
can synthesize?
yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. We can just add it in if it makes sense, or maybe we can share, anyways, yeah, that's fine.
You're not using AI for this?
Not directly, no. I used a lot of my own synthesis and I had to clean it up. Yeah.
I have a issue on housing, probably.
Andrew, do you mind talking into the mic a little more? Thanks.
Okay, I'm pretty close, but
These are like really close.
yeah. There's the grand jury report about ADUs. I'm sure equity and diversity came into that.
Has
work.
everyone heard about that grand jury report?
Mm-mm.
Could you describe it?
Well, I haven't read it either. It's just, I just read what I read in the almanac, which was very similar to stuff I was saying at the meetings, which is that I think ADUs are gonna be diverse. You're kidding yourself.
Basically, a San Mateo County grand jury found that Woodside, Atherton, and Portola Valley were relying too much on ADUs. to
in
meet
their
their housing
housing
elements.
elements.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's probably worth reading the grand jury report to see what they had to say about ADUs versus equity. I think probably the main message is nobody really knows because there isn't a lot of data. But it's probably something that's going to be a subject of discussion for many months. So it's probably worth us to take a look at the grand jury report at least.
Andrew, would you be willing to find the grand jury report and read it and share it with the rest of the committee?
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, that is noteworthy. You're right.
So I can read it too?
Andrew, Mary was wondering if you could include her in receiving
Oh, all right.
report
Well,
once you
can-
find it.
I assume I could forward the grand jury report since it's a public document without violating the Brown Act. So
Yeah, I think as long as we don't discuss it,
Yeah.
could BCC. That curtails discussion. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, just like as these conversations continue and develop to stay abreast of what's happening and be informed. Yeah. Similar to that, regarding housing, I think there's the big push of the ad hoc housing element committee that was, and then just creating the actual housing element. And now the housing element is passed. And I think this is something Judy Murphy or various people have spoken to, but I guess I'm wondering, like, strategically, practically, what are the best ways for our committee to stay involved in the housing conversation now that the housing element has passed and moving into implementation? If
Well,
anyone,
I'm assuming HCD hasn't actually approved it yet.
yeah, that's right. You're
So
right.
that's the next thing that's going to happen is that
Mhm.
they'll be back and forth on that. And it'll move a little quicker than probably our monthly meetings are going to go.
Mhm.
And I have no idea what the HCD comments are going to be. We were super late anyway.
What's HCD stand for?
Housing and Community Development, I think it's the State Department that has to approve the housing elements that's complying with the RHNA law. It's a lot of acronyms, unfortunately.
Rena.
Yeah. So anyway, HCD comments on our report or our element. Most people think our element was pretty good in terms of their requirements. Grand jury didn't, but anyway, that's the process that's going to occur.
Yeah, and the question I asked about, how to continue to stay involved in the conversation, going to be a long ongoing conversation. So it's an ongoing question, even if we don't, know really specific answers right now, just to keep that in relative focus. So thank you, Andrew, for
Okay,
looking at
well,
the
it's going to be
jury.
at the council level, because anyway, the planning commission level, not our level. That's my
Yeah,
guess.
right. We're just
Ad hoc committee isn't
advisory,
even meeting, or at least they haven't told me about it if they are.
right?
And I'm on it, so.
Yes. Yeah, we're just an advisory body, but you
Yeah.
know, we can do what we can do. Any other subcommittee or anything else on housing, or it's good? Any other subcommittee reports? This is related to the town seal. I believe that the town council has now passed the budget for the year. So I think we can submit a budget adjustment request now. So that will basically be our, you know, de facto budget request for the year. So just the last call, if there's any budget requests, town seal will be making a request for town seal process. But if there's anything else, let me know. This is what,
You need help with gopher?
gopher?
Otter?
The otter. This is
Gophers are more common around here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Otter. That may be a good one.
an interesting.
Maybe, I mean, that would be a longer term. Would it be possible to do it after we test it out?
It sounds
Or sh-
very.
Or should we,
penny-wise, you know?
should we just put it in as a pending item? Try it out for a year?
And then we don't have to spend it.
Yeah, we don't have
Yeah,
to send it if we don't.
that's a
if we
good point,
decide not
just
to.
like-
Yeah. Okay.
Pending a trial and discussion about the value of it.
Yep. I mean, it's
What would it cost for you? Can you
240.
Oh,
Okay, we'll do it. All right. I'll make a, should I?
get that gesture on the record.
Isn't that nice and cheap?
I've seen that. That one? Okay,
Okay,
all right.
great.
Penguin otter on the record.
One thing I was wondering if we want to make any movement on, I can't remember the name, the last iteration of the name of the committee, outreach and is that even one of the words? You know, the committee, the subcommittee I'm talking about? I mean, to do with
Communications. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I have it. I have the notes on it somewhere.
yeah, I just see the every month sustainability committee and wildfire preparedness
Awareness
committee.
and engagement, race and equity subcommittee. Yes. That's the one.
Awareness and engagement, yeah. So every week, every month, I see the wildfire committee, wildfire preparedness and sustainability committee, that, you know, they send something out to the whole town coming from their committee. So just that could be a possibility for us. And then I think, I don't know if this would fall in the subcommittee, but you know, there's been some times where it's like, oh, it's Black History Month, but we're thinking about it the month before and we don't have enough time to really get things together. So just I don't think we're going to do it in this meeting, but I'll do my best. And if anybody else wants to just like take a look at a calendar and think about what we might want to start anticipating. If there's things we want to engage with. Cool. Any other subcommittee reports? Excellent. Public comment? John, were you raising your hand and I was accidentally ignoring you this whole time, or you good? Okay. Never got Johnny. So old
I'm good.
business.
I'm good.
Okay, great. Old business, item B, hear information on and discuss public facility rentals to non-residents. I think Judy Murphy was mostly following up on this item and she's not here. So I think our discussion is going to be a little lackluster because of that. I checked in with her briefly and she said that part of the policy is because non-residents were reserving so far in advance and so much that then there weren't reservation spots available for residents. So that's just the very limited summary that she told me, but I think it would be worth revisiting this more with a little more context, because it is something that like multiple people have brought up, like from different towns or within this town, like why you guys like that.
As I recall, she was gonna check
Mhm.
to see what other towns are doing.
Yeah, I'll check in with Judy about this, just in preparation for if we want to discuss it again next meeting.
And there could also be a thing around like you can't reserve anything more than 2 months or 3 months in advance, like for non-resident. I mean, there could be a different policy for, there could still be a policy, but anyways,
Yeah, I agree. And
figure something out to
Yeah, I
address
think-
that issue.
yeah, before maybe having a more substantial conversation, we could get more
More information.
info,
Yeah.
more context. Okay. Old business C, discuss, any public comment? Old business C, discuss proposal to town council for revised land acknowledgement. So I did manage to include something in the agenda packet this time, thankfully. And it's basically the same that I showed in the meeting. There was some minor adjustments in the proposed revision itself. I did do some modifying, and I think the main goal there was to try and shorten it a little bit. I don't have a side by side of last meeting versus this meeting, but I would, yeah, I don't think this is going to be in front of the town council too soon. Their next meeting is next Wednesday, and I haven't, this Wednesday, tomorrow? Okay, so it's definitely not talking about it tomorrow. Probably not in 2 weeks because the mayor, no meeting in 2 weeks. Yeah, and so it's not going to be anytime too soon. But just wanted to continue to hear this committee's thoughts, and we don't have to spend much time on this because I know we're hopefully not reaching ad nauseum, but yeah, just thoughts on the current revision. So that's on agenda, the last page of the agenda packet, and it says proposed revision. One thing I wanted to mention, and so the goals, like I said last time, one was to try and make it shorter overall, also to incorporate the feedback, especially about the liability perspective that was really getting people scared, sort of. So yeah, just trying to find that line of challenging, but not challenging so much that it gets people activated to a place where they don't, just trying to find that line, that balance. One thing I wanted to mention is actually Craig Taylor was the town council member who was most directive about this, so worked on this. And he suggested coming back to the town council with multiple versions. And I sort of let that go and was like, we're just gonna do one version, he's relatively exhaustive in terms of his processes. So but in case anyone in the committee thinks like that's a great idea, to have multiple versions for different, one is to propose multiple versions to the town council, just for them to discuss,
I can propose many much harsher versions.
Yeah, it's true. We should probably have another example for.
In hopes that maybe those will be, who knows?
Yeah, no, I had the same thought. I
Yeah.
agree with you. Yeah.
Would it be okay to share one of the ones that
Yeah, you mean right now?
Yeah.
Sure, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'll put this in the notes as well. So, so I have one that I was based on what you were, the one should we read out the one that you?
Sure.
Have in
Could
here?
I read it?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So proposed revision, Portola Valley exists on unceded ancestral homelands of the Ramaytush Ohlone and Tamian Nation, the original inhabitants and stewards of this place who were devastated by colonialism. We recognize the persistence and resilience of these peoples and cultures, as well as the ongoing adverse impacts of colonialism. We seek to develop awareness of the indigenous peoples of this place and to invest in relationship with them.
And then it's in the town, it's in the minutes, but this one is not. And would you like me to read this one out loud?
Yeah, go for it. This is one that you wrote. And were you saying it's similar to the proposed?
It's
revision?
very
I thought that-
similar. It's very similar.
but
It's just a little bit,
different
it's a little
language
bit
and-
like, yeah, so it's very similar. I'm not on Zoom right now, so let me get on Zoom. Sure, I could try to do that.
Here, is it the one that?
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I received
Yep,
today?
yep.
I'm trying to do it too.
Just got on and got off. but- Here, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll get on there. Okay. Just make sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. I can share screen. So this is the one. Let me just make it bigger. Okay. There we go. All right, here we go. Portola Valley occupies the forcibly seized territories of the Ramaytush Ohlone and Tamian Nation, a testament to the brutal legacy of colonialism that decimated these indigenous societies. We must confront the severe ongoing fallout of these aggressive colonial acts and acknowledge the relentless resilience of these native peoples. Our responsibility is to actively dismantle ignorance, cultivating a profound understanding and respectful engagement with the original rightful custodians of this land. It's very similar. I just reworded a few things to make it a little, and I was looking at other ones that were written out there too. So just to kind of get a sense.
Is there any authorship from anybody else?
I can, oh,
Who wrote it?
I wrote this. I wrote it.
No, nobody.
No,
it
no,
wasn't plagiarized in any way.
No,
shape,
it
or
wasn't
form.
plagiarized. No, no, no. I looked at other language and I mean, like the word dismantle is something that I feel strongly about. Custodian is another word I feel strongly about. Like, so those are words that I saw in other places. So those words are plagiarized, but
Yeah, no,
I mean, yeah.
those, I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot I like about this version. You know, when you shared it with me, you asked, is this still too harsh? And I think if it was up for town conversation, it maybe would fall in that, but up for discussion in our committee. Like I said, there's a lot I like about it.
I agree.
It doesn't say anything about commoditization, which I think is one of the things that probably people would go, well, does that mean they own my land? That kind of stuff.
No.
So I actually think it's pretty darn accurate, right?
Yeah.
It's a little long to have at the bottom of every agenda, gotta tell you.
3 sentences.
It could be longer.
I could be.
Any other committee members have commentary on what
I have a-
Adnan
I have a
proposed?
comment.
Yeah.
Since this first came up, the terminology has changed as how we're describing the
You mean
people.
like in, in the larger collective or specifically here? in this
Here in
statement?
historical works that I've read.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm not sure, particularly in light of the fact that one of the tribe is seeking recognition, that the term, and we're addressing that. I'm not sure the terminology is actually stabilized yet. Changed 3 times last year. I think I'd say.
Mhm.
So I think we want to be as generic as possible.
Mhm.
Rather than specific.
Ramaytush, as I understand, is a linguistic term.
Mhm.
And maybe people who didn't speak Ramaytush, you have to foretold out. I don't know how we know that. So and I know the tribe that's seeking recognition, we're not giving their name. And there's other groups and whatnot. So I'm not,
Mhm.
it just troubles me that we may settle on something and we're changing it 3 times in 5 years, but because the terminology hasn't really stabilized, like I said.
Yeah, great point.
I would say that the Muekma Ohlone should be included.
If you look at Nancy Lund's book, she mentions a couple, 2 or 3 groups, not Muekmas. Forget which one she mentioned, but yeah, that's why I'm saying it hasn't stabilized.
I agree with hasn't. Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting question whether in light of that changing, unstable nature of the beast kind of that can just reflected.
I think the way to handle the situation with indigenous people as well as black people is to ensure that they have good schools, properly financed. If their community can't finance it properly, there ought to be mechanisms from more wealthy communities, notably the whole state, to give them first-class education. And, along with the formal part of the education is the probably more important I'm not sure if the word effort is the right word. The more important connection culturally with this kid that doesn't have good English and you know darn well he lives in a crummy little house. You want to allow him to feel better about himself.
I agree that education is important.
What?
I agree that education is important. I
Yeah.
think, we have to be careful with education too. As it's, yeah. Thanks, Andy. I think it's an interesting question about whether to be specific or general with tribal names, because there is a shifting and a drama there. Andrew, I heard your perspective on that, which is to be more general.
I would say Ohlone. That's what I do, but.
Yeah.
My daughter went to Lodi school. It seemed to be good enough at the time. But I don't know. Maybe we should
Yeah.
list 6 names. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think we need to be cautious about it.
Mhm.
Did as a lawyer once represent a tribe, and they were to fight with another tribe, and you would not believe how
Yes.
intense that got.
Yes. And I think in the revision I proposed, I took out the Muekma Ohlone, and that's partly right. There is drama about tribal recognition, and then also from the perspective of the Ramaytush, whether the Muekma can call this place a homeland. There's a lot of controversy there. So Kim, do you have any perspective about general, just like using more general language to allow for shifting or to use specific language in terms of naming tribes?
I would be in favor of being specific but inclusive of all of them at this point.
Yeah, you could always say "and other tribes," at the end, so that we're not leaving people out.
Well, I was thinking we are including all.
You can't include all because you wouldn't know the names of all of it.
They're trying to be as inclusive as is currently sort of understood through tribal recognition. Adnan, any perspective?
Just taking it all in.
Taking it all in and
I
typing
do have a
notes.
couple of additional thoughts about this whole topic. One
Yes.
is, if we focus on colonialism, for example, to me, that's like saying it's all the Spaniards' faults because they were the colonialists. I also think it's interesting that we had in our town, you know, Pomponio did have a camp here. He was killed by the Spanish or the Mexican at Great Ridge. And that all played out right here in town. Road. So that I would think
Can't
that,
remember who Pomponio was indigenous leader.
yeah, he was
was
an indigenous
running
leader
away.
who led a revolt against the Spaniards.
Yeah,
He was the
right.
most famous one, which street named after him, and
Mhm,
ranch,
mhm.
and creek named after him. And he held out on Alpine Road.
Upper Alpine, right, yeah.
He was killed somewhere else, and he wasn't from here either.
Mhm.
Originally, he was from Pescadero, but you know, the area. But we do have some history. Yeah, obviously you have the mission system that existed under the Spanish, and then the Mexicans, and then the Americans had a different thing that you probably wouldn't call colonialism, but you call it imperialism. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure what we're complaining about because we're using the term like colonialism.
Like what colonialism
Yeah.
is referring to. Mhm.
Being colonized.
Right, but which historical period are we talking about?
I think all of them. Like I think they were all. I mean, personally, when I think about it, I think that there were multiple levels of it, and it just kept going on and on. I mean, and many other countries have had similar things have happened to them too.
Right.
So I think that it's just it didn't happen once. It just continued to happen.
What happened once here? Which is what we're talking about. Certainly, the Americans were hunting Indians.
Well, it kept happening, right? Like I mean, it's not like it was just one instant, right?
You're saying like there's an ongoing
Yeah.
colonization happening still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's true for this area.
Like it's already colonized.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think in the land acknowledgement, you know, we're speaking like the indigenous peoples of this place don't really live here hardly anymore. So even if you're right that like the peninsula is sort of like thoroughly or like the peninsula is like a very colonized place, you know, and in a particular in that journey of colonization, that arc, the people, the indigenous people are not living in this place and are experiencing colonization still in different ways in different places. But yeah, I also wondered about that word today. So
Well, it's the current word.
Yeah.
Is the word ongoing in there? Ongoing colonization,
Yeah.
Going adverse impacts of
Ongoing.
colonialism.
ongoing colonization. I mean, if you specify the era, which is.
It's the ongoing fallout of these aggressive colonial acts.
Mhm.
So it's not ongoing colonialism, it's the fallout from that. Like, I mean, and that continues to happen. Again, it's one version, right?
So Adnan, in the version that you proposed, what were your goals? Like to use stronger language or just
was
like
basically it.
describe
Yeah.
things?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely the one I proposed is very toned down. So I understand that impulse and appreciate it. Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna have another meeting before this comes to the town council. So if folks have the bandwidth, we can try again, you know? Andrew puts his phone down. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't really, I know, oh, okay. yeah, I was just joking.
You know, the thing is, we're not trying to write something to impress somebody on the internet. Trying to do something that will be read at every meeting or the agenda. And so I think it might be helpful to keep that in mind. I also think there's lots of other, I mean, as I said, the historical history of this is really complicated. Our current government descends from the American takeover, which ousted the Spaniards, who ousted the Indians. So it's not just like one thing. I think there's some other groups around here also that people don't talk about, but in any event, what's the timeline on this at this point?
Yes, I was just saying that the next, well, I have a message into the town council to ask when it can be back on the next agenda, but considering that I haven't gotten a response back and they don't have a meeting for at least another month, I don't think it'll be too soon.
And I think
I'd
again,
like to say I've put up three colleagues' memos, and none of them have been allowed on the agenda.
Yeah, so the agendas are,
So
hard to get on
September,
right
I've been
now.
told they can't get on until September. They're actually relatively urgent. So that's a real problem, which is one of the things I was thinking about, and I shoot me down on this completely. But one of the things that can happen a little faster is if it's a flexible document and it's a working document and you want to put that one out, put it out, put it on the whatever it's called, the consent agenda. It goes through the consent agenda. It arrives on everybody's agenda, and we see what happens.
you're
And
saying a
if-
faster way to approach it. If
That's
we-
a lot
if-
faster.
Is the consent agenda, yeah. That could work. I have a hard time seeing Craig Taylor stamping consent agenda on this
Well,
one.
he
but-
can pull it off and talk
Yeah.
about it.
And, maybe that's the reality of town council agendas too right now.
Yeah.
It'd be different
Yeah.
than 6 months ago.
Yeah, otherwise you'll be looking at
September,
September, October, yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think,
if nothing else comes up.
okay.
again, we, like to Andrew, your point, I think we could, like reword a variety of different things, but in the end, maybe we don't make the choice, right? We just present it, like, because that's what we're doing, right? We
Oh, yeah,
present to the town
that's
council,
true.
town council has to stamp it. So we give them the options that we think are best.
Mhm.
And if you want to create your own or reword some of these, I think, I think that would be, like just to kind of get, I think the more input we give on these things and then present them with 3 or 4 options, including the original one, right? Then they can debate it for hours. And we don't have to debate it.
Well, I think that's their job too, because this is a citywide thing.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
It's not gonna be we're never gonna have the final word on it.
Right. Yeah. Because it goes on all the city website and agendas and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the town council, I think there's a chance that the town council would adopt something that we put forward without trying to change it. But they have the say ultimately, yeah.
I would say include the one the intern wrote.
Go
Already
back,
approved.
give the
Already
historical,
approved.
yeah, uh-huh.
Give them all the different options, right? Yeah.
There's been 2 that have already been approved.
This one was the current one that we have
The
was
current one.
approved too.
Yeah.
By the
Mhm.
previous town council.
Yeah.
And the one that the intern wrote was,
That was
The one-
2017,
so it was a few town councils ago.
similar composition.
Yeah.
of Council members, but yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting idea, Tim. If I may ask one more question about the land acknowledgement real quick, since we are, like gonna be approaching the town council and that might be a little ways off and this doesn't seem to be a rush about it at this point with the town council's agenda availability. Wanted to just revisit the other part of the document that I put together. It says recommendations for PV land acknowledgement. The change, what if number 1 is on town agendas and all the references change from just land acknowledgement to town of Portola Valley land acknowledgement. Does that sound okay to everybody? Because I think right now, like people on other committees read it and they're kind of confused, and just giving a little more context. The town council in November approved to have it as a footer on the town website. And I feel that it's important to follow up on that and make that happen. I guess we could before even. Yeah. Any discussion there, or does that seem good? Just like as a, Kim's Church has a good example of it, then it's just at the bottom on all the pages. No. Yeah, just like the website holistically. And then 3 is explore other instances for the land acknowledgement to be used ongoing. And this is where I wanted to get feedback if anybody had any proposal. I think it's not going to be approved to be asked to be read. And that was some of the feedback actually I got, that it's not legal to require or ask for something to be read to start a meeting. So I think that one is out. But I imagine a process where our committee can talk with other committees about how they can use the land acknowledgement, both reading it at their meetings and also just like how their committees work and interact with the work that hopefully this land acknowledgement is a small, part of catalyzing.
Well, if it's gonna be just on the website, you can go as wild as you want to go, but you can have a 20-page one if you want. If it's gonna be read at it's not gonna be read at every meeting, that's what you're saying. And then is it gonna be,
Unless it can't be required to be read at every meeting.
and then is it gonna be on everybody's agenda or not? Because we have a lot more freedom if we're not making other committees doing it.
Yeah, I would imagine or suggest that it stay on the agendas, but it's not, it's like there as a footer on a town document and not being required to be read by the committee.
So you could have your conquistador over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Harvard over here.
Yeah, and our mission inspired schoolhouse logo too. It's an interesting contradiction. But it's good to explore that contradiction. Yeah. All right, well, I think, and like I said, I feel self-conscious about discussing this ad nauseum and irritating our committee with coming back with this over and over, but it might happen again next meeting. So if anybody has ideas about how it would be good to be used throughout our town, that would make sense. The previous, in November, the town council had decided to put the land acknowledgement on a plaque inside the schoolhouse. I was thinking about that today, and I was thinking, well, that could be cool, but it could also be cool if it wasn't in the schoolhouse, if it was in like a more visible place on the town center campus, kind of thing. Anyways,
Carved in stone.
By the way, just one thought. I do think, if I understood a few minutes ago, there was the suggestion when this does come to the town council that could even be on the consent agenda. I think for people that are worried about a statement like this, that would be a bad thing to do, because they'll think, oh, they're just trying to slip it past us on the consent agenda so we don't notice it. I think it's better to have it agendized as a full discussion item. It's going to be discussed anyway, and it should be. So
yeah, thank you,
I
John.
just think
And
that's a better, more diplomatic way.
thanks. And yeah, honestly, bringing it for a full discussion in the council just brings the topic up for discussion again and creates more awareness in one way or another. And I think that's positive. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your patience and feedback. Thank you, Adnan, for, I like what you came up with. So if we could continue to talk about it.
Sure.
The members of the public, any comments? Okay. Item D in old business is revisit and discuss committee structure update draft proposal from Portola Valley Town Council. So if you remember, there is an idea coming from the town council to have the option for committees to be non-Brown Act committees. So some committees have to be Brown Act committees, some committees want to be Brown Act committees, some committees don't want to be Brown Act committees. And there's something called the Committee of Committees that meets every so often. That's like committee chairs or a representative. Yeah, layers of committeeing. But this has been a topic up for discussion in that group recently. And so the last time we talked about this, which was several months ago, I think we had different opinions and didn't really make a decision, and we didn't need to make a decision yet, and we still don't exactly, but it would be good to zero in on what we want to do. I think last time we talked about this a few months ago, there was some concerns about being taken seriously as a committee if we're not a Brown Act committee. And that would be a concern about becoming a non-Brown Act committee. And then pros to become a non-Brown Act committee is that virtual attendance is then allowed, whereas as a Brown Act committee, virtual attendance is not allowed. So that's the big difference. I think the organizers are exploring like just exactly the definition of what it would mean to be a non-Brown Act committee, like what level of communication is permitted, because I think people would also like to relax the stringency around out of meeting communication for non-Brown Act, but it's like, how do you do that with still maintaining that integrity so that all committees do have the same standing with the town council and in the town, even if they're not Brown Act. So I just included again the document that the town council had originally sent out, and would like to hear from people. I will note that since we originally talked about this a few meetings, we've had meetings where we haven't been able to make quorum. And if we had been able to have virtual attendance, we would have been able to make quorum. So I think as chair, I'm like supposed to not share my opinion as much, but my opinion would be, I would prefer to be a non-Brown Act committee. I think just it makes it more dependable that we're gonna be able to make quorum and have a meeting. And yeah, it just allows different flexibility. I mean, hopefully we can have standards as a committee that if you're joining virtually, there's still like a standard of attendance and informedness. But like next meeting, I'm going to be traveling and I plan to still join, but I won't count as quorum.
So I'm trying to understand the agenda setting. It sort of looks like it's the same. But I think that would be an advantage if I imagining what a non-Brown Act committee would be, not having this being able to put things on the agenda without having to publicly announce it a week in advance would be an advantage to me more than the virtual thing. But I'm not sure what the plan is on that.
I've got a question about this, and perhaps I haven't kept abreast of state law, but my understanding was that state law did allow virtual attendance to meet Brown quorum requirements, but maybe that's changed because the emergency of the pandemic is considered over. Is that the case?
I'm sorry, I missed half that question.
I
What was the
think that-
question?
My understanding was that state
That
law,
is the case, John. It expired. There was a set amount of time, and so that they changed it because
well, I would
the
like to,
pandemic's over.
well,
The idea behind it.
well, just like you can still dine outdoors and even in the street on California Avenue in Palo Alto. I think there were some things that were done during the pandemic that the public found extremely helpful. And so perhaps I'm foolish to believe that democracy actually works, but I think we ought to contact our state senator and state assemblyman and say, because I think there needs to be a workaround about this because it is very helpful. There's no reason that someone who's traveling who finds it inconvenient to physically attend should have to physically attend in this day and age. There's just no public purpose served by that. And and I do think there's a strong public purpose served through the Brown Act. I think committee meetings should be public. If there's a subcommittee that's less than a quorum, doing work, preparing something to bring it back to the whole committee, that's different. But when I was on the town council, I think Parks and Rec started to meet in people's homes. And they were agendized and announced, and members of the public could attend those meetings in private homes. But the council felt it was unwelcoming to members of the public. And it was important to have all committee meetings take place in a neutral setting on town property, in a town facility. And so I do think the spirit of the Brown Act very much should be complied with. And I was hoping my attending by Zoom would count toward the quorum. It doesn't apparently. I'm glad I'm not needed for that. But I just think that the town should work. Perhaps we should suggest to the town council that we ask the state to amend the law to allow virtual attendance. To not do so is a silly vestige of an outmoded past.
Well, I think, I mean, that's the point of this other meeting. So if we're not a Brown Act committee, then we don't have to comply with that. So it's kind of like saying that we choose to sit outside only, or sit outside and inside at the same time while we're eating, whereas the Brown Act only allows you to sit inside, right?
Well, I think the Brown Act requires a lot of things that were really good. And the good things it requires, we don't want to avoid or evade.
And I think
So-
that this
And
proposal,
if to square the circle, an amendment of state law is needed, I think our town should suggest it, and who knows, it just might happen. But
Thank you, John.
then
Hey, I
maybe I'm a
wanna,
silly idealist.
John, may I, if I may, I see that we have 10 minutes left. So I'd like to use that time, and actually the group working most specifically on this in the last like 48 hours sent a draft of what they're proposing. So I'd like to screen share that right now. Because John, yes, I think a lot of us agree that it would be nice to have that flexibility for virtual meeting, and that's what this is trying to do partly. So here they're calling town council committee the Brown Act committee, and they're calling town manager committee the non-Brown Act committee. And then a group is even less formal. And I think there's only like one current committee that wants to be a group, because they're like, we just want to meet and talk about history. There's all these different categories. We'll just give you a few minutes to read it so we can have a more informed discussion. Can people see this?
I can,
Yeah, sorry.
how is it different from the one?
It's a little more detailed, and I haven't done a side by side. This is actually the first time that I've looked at this. I apologize. It just came in the last like 48 hours. Okay. Yeah. Bigger? Mm. Yeah. This is a draft, by the way. Sent this out to the committee chairs as a draft, but I thought it'd be relevant to our. So reporting and appointments are by the town manager as opposed to the town council. Meetings may be held without a quorum, but a quorum is required to vote. The noticing timing is different. It's 48 hours, and I guess there's a footnote here, number 2. Yeah, so part of it is also to reduce staff time because our town has tons of committees and it takes a bunch of staff time. So that's one of the other goals. So the noticing details instead come from the chair instead of going through town staff.
I have a few comments from people already.
Isn't there a second page?
Indeed. Yeah, so I think the balance here, and this is partly what John was speaking to, is this group in Portola Valley is trying to find the balance of allowing flexibility outside of Brown Act, like virtual attendance, less staff time, things like that, but maintain integrity so that committees that elect to be non-Brown Act still have that container of integrity with which to exist in town. This is an interesting.
Sounds like there's more flexibility about discussions outside of the meeting. And that it allows for Zoom and we have a shorter
Noticing.
noticing and we do it ourselves instead of going to staff member. That's what I see happening.
Yeah,
And a lot of it is town manager versus town council.
and there's a lot. I can read you the list of committees if you want that are thinking of going non-Brown Act. I can pull it up.
Also, scroll through, I can see them.
So the committees that are indicating that they would like to be non-Brown Act are cultural arts, historic resource, park and recreation, public works, nature and science, sustainability, Woodside Highlands. And finance is not on this list, but I know finance also indicated that they want to be non-Brown Act. If possible. So has everyone had a chance to read this and can we discuss now? Andrew?
Just looking at pros and cons, also the notes that were in the packet, it says any committee appointed by the full town council is subject to the Brown Act. So we would by definition not be appointed by the full town council. I think that's an advantage. Adding
The
members.
town manager is now with a
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, well, I don't care how we get appointed. Having the town council have to do it is awkward. I don't remember ever being interviewed or even talked to by any council member to be on this one
Yeah,
or the ad hoc committee or the nature and science that I used to be on.
yeah, it's pretty
Uh,
rote.
I did get, go through the interviewing process for planning and I didn't make it twice, but that's another story. They pick better
Fools.
people. than me. So I think the membership being flexible, being able to add, subtract people without going through a council meeting is a good thing. On the remote members, you can have remote people participate remotely in a Brown Act meeting even now. People have been doing this for years. If you're out of town, you just say, okay, I'm going to be at such and such a hotel. I'll leave the door open. You just have to tell people where you are. Nobody's going to come and bother you if you're in Boston or Honolulu or something. So if I had to be at home for some reason because I had COVID or something, I'd just say, my address and I can see my front door from where I sit with my computer. And it's not that bad.
Well, my experience in the last several months trying to work with town staff in it is they're a little uptight about it.
Yeah,
Um,
but people do it. I've seen it done.
yeah,
That's my comment. On agenda, I think there's an issue philosophically about public engagement. Let me explain what I mean by that. The Brown Act Committee publishes its agenda in advance so everyone can see it. It publishes its packet so everyone can see it. So theoretically, anybody who wants to comment can send in a letter, an email, come to the meeting, come in on Zoom, whatever they want to do. If we're going to have chair people adding and subtracting items from the agenda until 10 minutes before the meeting,
Well, 48 hours.
well, no, it's 48 hour
Oh.
notice of the
Yeah.
meeting. And that's another issue. But if you're adding and subtracting agenda items, right, at, even 48 hours for meeting on Tuesday, that could be Sunday night or Sunday day. So I think it detracts from the public engagement. Similarly, if people are allowed to meet in groups of more than a quorum offline, that I think creates a perception that we don't care about the public because we're already discussing things. And so I think you have to think about those two things. And the formalism of having an agenda and having not had it discussed by a quorum before it comes up has some advantages if you're interested in public engagement. Now, nobody comes to our meetings anyway, so I'm not sure that matters.
But they will.
It will. But if we wanted to have a committee that, I was on some other committees in Palo Alto that dealt with racial issues. We had a zillion people coming. People would argue, anything that involved Palestine, you would have many people there having fistfights in the hallway. But, or police practices for that matter. So we would be losing that, and we'd be losing a little bit of standing in the eyes of the public because we're not as formal. So that's, and I'm not saying I don't really care one way or the other. I mean, I don't care. I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. But those are all the considerations I'm seeing as someone who's chaired a bunch of Brown Act committees.
Yes, thank you. And I think we can give this feedback, like this is a draft. So I think part of what they're trying to do right now is find that balance between flexibility and integrity. So I think the comments you just made are suggestions or feedback we can pass on to these organizers.
If I could, I'd like to follow up on what Andrew said. I agree completely with the sentiments he expressed. And I do think if what we're looking for are a few carve outs that state law previous allowed us, but now it doesn't, then we should make, if the town council is going to allow quote unquote non-Brown Act committees, the town should only allow the committees to do pretty much everything that the Brown Act would have required, with the exception of virtual attendance, appoint committee members. I would hope that it would be on the policy that he or she would do so only after consulting with the town council. But I also think it would be if we're making this change because we want to keep flexibility that we had under a previous state law, our town and our committee should suggest to the town council that they ask our legislators to work to modify state law so that the flexibility we had during pandemic will continue in the future. But I do think it's very, very important to have the public feel that the openness the Brown Act requires would still be a part of town policy of anything worthy of calling a committee of the town of Portola Valley.
Thank you, John.
I think we're like the last committee to decide whether we want to be Brown Act or not, but I think that's okay. I don't think that we need to right now. I'm feeling like what might be most valuable right now is to give this feedback to the people working on this structure, and then revisit it again and see if there's any changes that are satisfactory to what we were just talking about.
We can ask Otter.
Yes.
Yeah, for me,
But we've
I
only
would
got a
just,
half hour.
whatever we want to do, I'm okay with.
Okay.
I was pointing out the pros and cons of different things as I saw them. If we wanted to be a non-Brown Act and we still wanted to publish our agenda and our packets and get them out there, as long as the town doesn't interfere with our doing that, we could probably do that. If we wanted to have a meeting that was going to discuss something contentious, we could certainly go through some formalism. There's nothing stopping us from doing that if we're not brown.
Yeah, and I think there will be some formalism that's asked for that is not detailed in this chart. Like there's going to be sort of more structure and processes that are asked for than in the sort of bare details of this chart. Well, does anyone want to propose one way or another and we can vote on it now? Otherwise, we can wait. Yeah. Sure.
Well, I think we ought to vote on it now. Talking about it.
It's a good point, Andy.
I didn't catch every word Andy just said.
He said he thinks we should vote on it now so we don't have to keep talking about it.
Right. Well, I'd be willing to make a motion, which might not even get a second, but at least that would give us a chance to put this to bed. Number one, I would move that if our town council is to allow non-Brown Act committees, the town require that those said committees they would allow virtual attendance. And also that our town should contact our members of the legislature to request changes to state law so that we could have that flexibility without needing to be quote unquote non-Brown Act.
I think,
That's
John,
our mo-
I think that's off the table right now. I mean, that could take years for that to go through.
Well,
So-
wait. I think my motion had two parts.
Oh, sorry.
I
I'm
think,
sorry.
John,
no-
your connection
And you're
is
also
your
breaking up
connection's
a little.
spotty, so
Well,
we might have missed.
not
it.
sure you
Well,
can make
that's
them.
all the more reason that maybe we shouldn't have virtual attendance if I'm breaking up. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, there are two parts. One is that if it's an interim, the town is to allow non-Brown Act committees. The town require those committees adhere to all the requirements of the Brown Act, except for,
John, I think that you're getting a little like if we're making demands of this whole process.
well, I'm not making demands. I'm trying to make a
Oh.
motion and it can die for lack of a second. But since folks weren't able to understand my motion, I just thought to make it clearly. One is that if we are to have non-Brown Act committees in our town, it'd be my strong recommendation. I hope. the
Oh,
committee-
John, I'm sorry, you can't make a motion because you're not, yeah, is that what you were saying
Yeah.
also? Yeah, my
Yeah.
bad. John, you're not,
I'm not
technically-
eligible to make a
You're not in
motion.
quorum right
You're
now.
not
yeah.
eligible to make.
Anybody else inspired to make a motion right now?
Yeah, sure. I'll make a motion for us to be a non-Brown Act committee.
I second that.
May I,
To be a non-Brown Act committee.
I'd like to add a brief point of discussion. I think I would say, be a non-Brown Act committee, but we would share with the organizing group that it's very important to us that processes are set up to guarantee the integrity of committee processes in the absence of the Brown Act and to largely reflect Brown Act except for these few.
I think the biggest point of contention for me personally is the virtual attendance. Other than that, I'm fine with the Brown Act. Maybe we can call it the Purple Act.
Well, that's what I was trying to move essentially. But if I'm not allowed to move it, I guess I'm not allowed to vote on this either. So.
Okay, so we got a first from Adnan and
hopefully-
a second from Kim. Andrew?
Well, I'll just comment, a couple comments. It'd be useful to know what Don and Judith think about this. If they're both for it, that would inform my decision somewhat.
Yeah.
Two, I will just remind everybody that if you violate the Brown Act in this town, or even if you don't, you can get sued. Because it's happened and there's people out there. Fortunately, we're not on their radar, but yeah. And if the committee wants to go Brown Act, I can log into my office.
Well, I agree it's important to put things to rest, but I think, yeah, let's hear from Judith and Johnny. And I like tried to just word a motion, but maybe actually coming to the meeting with that sort of motion so that it's better
Well, I
understood.
think we have to
next time.
vote because the motion's been made unless the person who made the motion wants to withdraw. it.
I mean, I do think it would be nice to have input from them, but also knowing that I don't think Johnny has attended a meeting
Yeah,
in
you
person
know how
yet.
he's feeling
So
about- yeah.
yeah, I don't want to put words in their mouth or anything, but like, I feel like that would make sense
Yeah.
in that regard. And
And I
We
um,
know how he feels about
And I
this.
think Judith indicated in the previous meeting that she was pretty supportive of
Okay.
non-brown act.
Well, that answers my question. I wasn't talking about Johnny, I was talking about John. Who
This
could-
John.
this John could easily tell us what he thinks and already has.
Okay, all right, we got a motion from Adnan, a second from Kim. Andrew?
I'm done commenting. You
Oh, no, I
call-
mean, what's your vote if we're voting
We're
now?
taking a vote?
Yes, we're taking a vote now.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you are, just call a vote. We can all
Okay,
vote.
we're calling a vote. So
All right.
Adnan motioned, Kim seconded, committee member Pierce.
All right, well, I'm not gonna make a speech about my vote. I would vote yes. I'm
Great.
Assuming, but yeah, you should call a vote. Let's see what it is. It's 5-0. It's 5-0.
Yes, apologies, trying to call a vote. I just didn't say it clearly enough. Andy Brown, what do you vote?
I don't want to say a word.
No, it's a vote about whether we become a non-Brown Act committee. Okay, and I also vote in favor.
All right, so. it's
Great.
the- All right.
Thanks, sorry about that confusion at the end. Okay, our next meeting is August 8th, 6:30.
When?
August 8th, Tuesday, August 8th. Thank you.
Thank
meeting
you,
adjourned.
Lucy.
thank you.
What time?
6:30. Thinking not before a few months from now.
Mm.
Yes.
Do I share these with you? Where,
Yes,
or-
please.
okay.
Yeah, after you're done formatting.
I'll just share with them now, but
Okay. Sounds
I think they're pretty well formatted. I mean,
Trying to make it appeal.
Bye, John. I'm going to turn off the Zoom. Thanks for joining us.
Useless as it may have been.
I'll look at the other meetings. but basically- I have to copy what was done before. so.